Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Welcome everybody, this is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany. Welcome to another interview in our media partnership with Frankfurt Forward. This time we do have the pleasure to have the startup of the month, August, here with us, and I do have Tom, who's the CEO and co-founder of Wingcopter. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Completely my pleasure. We may tell the audience, if you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button as well as the bell. And if you like those interviews, you can support us on Patreon. That said, this is the second attempt of an interview between you and us because you're a Rhine-Main based startup. And at the time I was really starting out with a video, I was still using one camcorder, and that thing actually completely burned through our first interview. So this is actually the second interview, and it's completely my pleasure to welcome you. We are talking.
I remember pretty well. I actually felt really sorry, but we were super busy at that time and we couldn't repeat. Now we have the second chance, so let's go.
I believe in second chances. That said, we are talking drones today because you guys are a drone startup. But I've been stalking you a little bit on your LinkedIn profile, and actually there is not a lot to tell. So can you tell us a little bit about you, about the person, what you did before, and how you ended up with drones? I mean, drone startups are not very popular, but there are some around, but it's not the intention when you grow up. You want to be a firefighter or something like this, but not a drone entrepreneur. What did drive you into this direction?
Okay, so basically, multiple questions. So, okay, when I grew up, I was actually hoping to become, like, really, when I was small in kindergarten, I wanted to become a pyrotechnician. So I had this kind of crazy thought to really make big fireworks, probably, and hopefully we do this in the right way with our startup, like hopefully in a good sense. Not burning it up, but really making something huge. So yeah, it changed a lot. I mean, by now I ended up, we are manufacturing and also providing services on drones, or basically drone operations. And yeah, we manufacture really high-end technology. So this is totally different from what I dreamed up in my kindergarten times. However, I'm still, I'm excited. It's big fun, and I think we are really successful in what we are doing. So yeah, maybe you have to repeat your question.
Yeah, don't worry. Everything's fine. You studied, I assume, engineering at TU Darmstadt?
No. This is my co-founder. So I'm really not an engineer. That's why it's also, like, for me, that's why it's a little crazy also that I ended up in this position, running now a company with really capable engineers without being an engineer myself. So, I mean, I basically started with, looking back what I did in the past. I started with things like product design, communication design. I went into filmmaking. I learned how to direct films, camera, all these creative things. That was like half of my life. It was like full of creative stuff I did. Then I started at some point working with drones. And this is when I met a really good engineer called Jonathan Hesselbart, who is now my co-founder, one of my two co-founders. So he basically is the brain behind the technology. So he really invented the Wingcopter. And at the time we met, I actually had the dream to build something which is not there, which I couldn't, use or buy for my. I had a drone startup. I have to say this. So I studied film, but at some point it turned out into film, like aerial filming. So I used drones to do some films, and I was really frustrated with the technology. You couldn't buy really capable drones with long flight time and all this. So it came out of frustration that I really wanted to create a new drone. Also, I had the wish to maybe even sit inside the drone at some point, because I always had these kind of visions of, can I not sit inside a drone? Would that be possible? That was the time there were no drone taxis really. Like by now you find a lot in production, or not in production, but different startups who work on this idea. Back in the days, it wasn't really there. So we basically, when I met Jonathan, we spoke about the manned drones. However, he showed me the prototypes he already had created, and it was super impressive. So he had this vertical takeoff drone, which can tilt the rotors and fly on a very long range, super efficient. And this was just what I was dreaming about, like a drone which is capable of taking off everywhere, but really delivering like good flight time and carrying payloads from over long ranges. And seeing this drone really made me happy, and I kind of told him that I would love to start a company with him to take this kind of prototype he had into shifting it into becoming a real product, and then starting selling it and scaling it step by step. And we actually did this.
So basically, when we talk about Wingcopter, there is a reason for the word wing in the word. So it's similar to vertical takeoff planes. Is that about right?
So for Wingcopter, looking at the name, it's a combination of two things. So for sure, it's a wing, and so wing system. It comes from the fixed wings. So, and then there's multicopters, which most of you know, I guess. It's the drone with 4 rotors or 8 rotors, vertical takeoff, always hovering. They use a lot of energy. So the combination of both makes really much sense. It's actually you combine like this kind of capability to hover everywhere, to take off on the smallest spaces. However, then once, and this is what Jonathan's great idea was, to really have the same propulsion system for both modes. So you can tilt the rotors, and it becomes like a fixed wing system within seconds. So by tilting the rotors and also attaching wings to the system, you really have a drone which can then like fly like these kind of normal aircrafts with 1 or 2 propellers. And
for everybody who's watching this right now, we'll be playing a little bit of footage from your YouTube channel for the drones. For everybody who's listening just to the audio podcast, Google something like a V-22 Osprey. You're producing more or less a much smaller version of it, right?
Exactly. Jonathan's idea, like he started 2009, 2010. So really early and a few years before we met. So Jonathan actually wanted to, with a friend, he wanted to build an Osprey, which is this big military aircraft with tilting rotors as well, but only 2, which is pretty hard to steer, and also it cost so much in development, like billions. So basically, He wanted to build this and then realized, why not using 4 rotors like a multicopter? Why not using drone technology, which is just upcoming, and combining it with the idea of this kind of tilt rotor mechanism? So that's what he prototyped, a very easy way, like styrofoam prototype. So this is basically how everything started in 2010. And then over the next years, he built different prototypes, like 16 prototypes. He kept advancing his concept into a real capable drone, which at that time there was no model like this on the market. So this is basically the background, how Jonathan, because of an Osprey model he wanted to improve, he basically ended up to design something totally new, and he was able to patent it. So this kind of tilt rotor technology is patented, which is a good foundation for our startup.
I see. Very interesting story. Am I assuming rightly that this tilt rotor drone is actually better like in reaching longer distances than the multi rotor drone you just described before?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe how do I explain it easy? So you have the multicopter can really take off vertically. which is super helpful because you can start everywhere. You don't need a runway. You don't need. There are even complex systems to bring, especially wing drones in the air. Like there are drones which they get accelerated by a catapult, and then you have to catch them with a net from the sky because they cannot easily land. So you always need for the multicopter is easy. It can just take off. However, it uses lots of energy. For the fixed wing systems, you normally need a runway, a catapult, lots of infrastructure to get it off the ground. By combining these benefits like a vertical takeoff or the hovering capability, however, very efficient and energy-saving forward flight by transitioning the drone smoothly into a fixed wing system after the vertical takeoff. This is the perfect combination to enable range, but also to enable really robust flight characteristics. So the Wingcopter, this kind of how can I say, tilt rotor technology is really able to even fly in harsh wind conditions. So we can fly up to 90-kilometer wind speed. We can, now for all the American listeners in miles per hour, but I have to to shift that. But anyway, it's very strong in winds. It's really capable, and therefore Wingcopter is pretty unique. 55 miles. Okay, thanks for that. So wind speed, basically. This is something not many drones can resist or be able to still operate in this kind of harsh conditions. And this is due to the pivoting rotors. So the rotors are actually balancing the drone, so it's always stable.
We may add, because I just realized I had that advantage. I had it in my hand. It's very light and it's very small. But when we talk about a V-22 Osprey, people are thinking like really big ass machines. But actually you produce, a drone that actually would fit into a mid-sized refrigerator, something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, maybe I have to say that also the background from Jonathan is glider engineering. So beside university, and apart that his parents also were already in, like, their instructors, flight instructors. His father is already, his father is teaching at the university in Switzerland on the lightweight construction. So Jonathan is basically, he grew up with aviation, and he grew up building like model aircrafts where lightweight is everything. So it's definitely the opposite of an Osprey, which is super heavy, and uses lots of energy to accelerate and or basically to take off and fly. So the idea is really to have an electric drone which has to be super lightweight and extremely efficient in terms not just on the flight characteristics but also on using the energy. It's an all-electric system. Also an important thing to say, because this is also part of the idea of Wingcopter to really improve, like to have a good footprint in terms of environmental protection or really not adding up to the whole environmental or climate temperature increase. Sorry, how can I say that? Not to have any bad things coming out of the drone. Like with helicopters, they use so much fuel. I have hard times to finish sentence right now in this interview, I just realized. But I basically want to say that an electric system is much more sensible. And I think since we are entering a new decade or new age with these kind of technologies, by the way, I think with drones, we are at the beginning where, for example, cars were when they were invented. So we are really in the early days, really pioneering here. And I think in the next couple of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you will see crazy improvements in the drone space and crazy new innovations, and also totally new markets, which we didn't even think about yet. And for sure, Wingcopter wants to be leading in this, and we keep innovating. So the technology we have, we constantly improve. So right now we are working already on the next generation, and we have already in mind the next 3 to 4 generations of the Wingcopter. We just go step by step because the one we have right now is already pretty perfect for many applications. So we can already sell. We bootstrapped our startup by selling. So we are really already successful in just building and selling the drones we have. However, we know what's needed next.
Many people would say, nice, a drone startup, but actually you guys already have, for example, on your YouTube channel, which we'll also link in the show notes below, you have already some applications, like really interesting stuff, delivering, let me quickly have a look, delivering vaccines in Vanuatu, which is an island in the Pacific Ocean, DHL medical delivery in Tanzania in Africa. So you guys are really going for the time sensitive important stuff, right?
Yep. I mean, this is also going back to the vision of Wingcopter. So we want to create sustainable and efficient drone solutions which really improve and save lives. So this is something we really look at while we develop technology. So our technology should be used for good. And so therefore we also decided not to go for military drones. So we are not working in that space. We are not providing our technology to military applications, which we received lots of requests at the beginning, until we stated on our website that we don't follow up to these opportunities, because money-wise it's interesting market, but for us it's nothing we want to see our wingcopters flying for. So our wingcopters should really like benefit society and actually mankind. So we think by delivering, for example, vaccines, as you mentioned, our project with UNICEF, we have been on this Pacific island. Actually, it's an island state. It's 80 islands. And also, sorry, I have to correct you, and please correct me as well. I already start making mistakes here by trying to make a good English interview while being a German native speaker. So I'm struggling also a little bit. It's called Vanuatu, which is tricky, but Vanuatu actually it's a great place because you have such a, like, it looks like a paradise basically, full of jungle and palm trees and beaches, and so really nice, really friendly people. Also some kind of still tribe structure. So you might know, you might have seen these pictures of people jumping with the natural rope from some towers, and this is basically happening in Vanuatu. So a wonderful island, wonderful people. However, because of there are no roads and no infrastructure really, they really struggle to deliver things quickly. So looking at vaccine delivery for children, UNICEF is working in Vanuatu, and they deliver, together with the Ministry of Health, they deliver vaccines to villages, which are really hard to reach. And so the workers from the Ministry of Health or the UNICEF workers, whoever needed to walk to the village, needed roughly 7 hours to reach a village, walking through this really dense jungle, and having no roads and not really a great access. So if you imagine this situation and you use a wingcopter to deliver the same payload, so we could deliver 50 vaccines with one flight, up to 50 children vaccines with one flight. You can imagine this can really help when we fly there in 5 minutes. We actually invented not just the tilt rotor technology, but we keep, as I said, we keep innovating. So we also designed a winch mechanism which lowers the package accurately at the final destination. So we fly out there to the village, all from one base station. So actually we deliver to 19 villages from one station with our drone technology. So the drone takes off vertically, it tilts the rotors, transition within seconds. It flies out to the village 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers. However, the range was, actually we had some specific radius of operation, and within this radius, we could reach all the different villages on demand. So whenever a nurse called us, we did the takeoff, we put the vaccines into the drone took off, it was flying out there, and then it was hovering above the village. And by doing so, you could really drop the package without even, for example, kill children. When they see a drone, they get excited, they run to the drone, they want to see it flying. So it would be a little bit critical to land beyond visual line of sight. So without seeing the drone far away, 20, 30 kilometer away, landing in a village, it can, technically it's possible. And we did the same things in Tanzania with DHL, for example. However, the request was bidirectional delivery for vaccines. It's really just one way. So therefore we could hover without, hurting anyone, just staying in the air, dropping the package by a rope, turning around and flying all the way back. So we were able to really send the drone in all directions on demand. Whenever there was a nurse running into a stock out, she could just call us, and we did this for 6 months and really improved the supply chain and proved that drones make total sense to reduce waiting time for patient and to avoid stockouts.
My sincere apologies to all the people of Vanuatu. Really sorry about that. I confused the islands there. That said, we are talking about like applications in the Pacific Ocean, in Africa. Are you also currently working on applications here in Germany, for example?
Yeah, so we actually have just achieved a really great step looking at flying drones in Germany. So you have to imagine worldwide there is still a lot of like regulatory, which is good. We actually welcome if the drone space will be more regulated. Why? Because our drones are industrial drones, so we are not building the toys for just everyone to have fun. So we really build drones to achieve like to accelerate complex work tasks or to improve, data gathering or package delivery, logistics or whatever. So we basically have this industrial drone, which if once there are lots of rules, we can, and already we design it towards these rules, which are upcoming. However, since they are still implemented and not in every country in the world it's allowed to fly. Also, same for Germany. You have like within the visual field, it's okay to fly a drone up to a certain weight and a certain size. However, with our drones, they are they are still pretty lightweight, but roughly 13, 14 lbs on payload, and then even more the drone itself. So it's quite some piece of drone, and you cannot just easy fly it. And also in Germany, what's not allowed, for example, is to really fly over 20, 30, 40 miles. So what we actually, or kilometers. So what we actually do is we went through a risk analysis. We figured out a right client, which was at this last project, it was Merck, a big pharma company in Germany. And we also found a very sensible use case. So there are laboratory samples which get like basically they are designed in one village or one city, and in another city they get analyzed. So in between there's a car going. So it's called Gernsheim and Darmstadt, where we work and where we are building up our startup. So as we were part of the Merck accelerator, we had really good access to Merck. Actually, thanks for that, Merck accelerator. As we met there, super interesting accelerator, really helpful. They helped us over more than a year. With space and also with some funding without equity. So really a great chance for us to grow. And through that connection, we could talk with them about their supply chain and realize we could improve this by using a drone flying from Gernsheim, which is 26 kilometers roughly away from the main facility where the analytics takes place. So we actually enabled, and this was quite revolutionary. Why? Because we enabled a drone flight beyond visual line of sight, which was crossing highways, power lines, rivers, like all these critical infrastructures you are normally not allowed these days to fly over. For sure, in future, we imagine a future where at Wingcopter, where we see thousands of drones flying around for all different applications. So at some point, and this is at some point we will have this, and also this is why we welcome regulatory approaches to really make a regulated sky for drones possible. However, in these days, it's not there. So your question to ask if we had operations in Germany, yes, already successful. For example, with Merck, we were one of the first people succeeding with beyond visual line of sight flights, even basically commercial flights because of carrying these kind of payloads. However, we are not on a daily operation. This is what we are looking into right now. How can we build up commercial so-called BVLOS flights, beyond visual line of sight flights, here in Germany and in the rest of the world? We had several countries now we gained permission to really fly beyond visual line of sight. However, in Germany, we are not on a daily basis operating yet.
That brings us a little bit towards the end, because I was wondering, how are you guys financed?
Yeah. So concerning finance, we were lucky that we had this kind of really capable drone technology in a time like 2015, we started really building it basically like a product, so using carbon fiber, glass fiber. So it became like much more matured than what it was in the years before. Even the technology was already great, what Jonathan invented. However, it was a styrofoam drone, not really an industrial grade tool. Once we had this, we could start selling. So the first years until 2019, end of 2019, we basically bootstrapped all the way. We sold drones one after the other by selling a drone for a price which is normal for the drone industry, for the industrial drone industry. However, it was still enough and or high enough for us to fund new employments and all this. So by selling a drone, it really made an impact on growing the company. So the minute we sold a drone, we could employ a new person. And that's how we became a team of 35 people roughly. And that was the time we basically met a multifamily office. We got an introduction through PwC, and they showed us, hey, there's a multifamily office which is run by Germans called Corcam, based in Singapore, but German management, and you might just want to talk to them. They are already invested into two other drone startups, and this could be a good fit and added value because they have great connections in Singapore, USA, and so on and so far. So we met them and we realized these guys are great, very friendly, very supportive. And so we realized maybe now it's the time, because before that, since we were able to sell, since we generated revenue on our own, we didn't really have the need or even not the wish to really let investors join too early, because normally when you let them join too early, the money they bring in is not that big, and also the percentage they will get for that not so big money will be a lot. So it's not worth it most of the time to take in too early investors if you can self-finance your startup. So, but at that time, we realized speed is also super important, that we really become a market leader in this space. So we wanted to actually take some venture capital into the company. So we agreed with them on a good deal, I would say. Looking back, it was the right decision. We could also restructure our company to make it really investment ready. So we kind of, when you're a startup and you bootstrap on your own, you kind of, be super capital efficient, and sometimes this is not always the best. So we basically restructured everything in a way that we can also take in bigger funds and bigger investors in the next round. So we are lucky to even now have introductions and great discussions about what's next. And I think we did it right. We first, prepared everything with revenue, and now we are taking in more and more capital to go for the vision. I mean, I told you before that we want to, scale the drones, scale the startup step by step, and that big vision we have, seeing thousands of Wingcopter flying everywhere for all kinds of application, from small to really big. This is something which will be really capital intense, and we look for investors with long-term thinking, who believe in like aviation grade technology, like really efficient technology we create, and also into our innovative spirit, as well as into our humanitarian spirit, because we are not just like for profit. For sure, we are a company which wants to, make that kind of exponential growth in revenue. However, we still really want to see many, many lives improved and lots of social change. For example, we just won a 1.5 million award, actually 3 million euro divided by 2, because we partnered up with UNICEF to educate people on drones. So we are now starting basically a drone school or an educational program on how to teach people who never touched before the drone space, and therefore they would be not able to participate in a $1 billion market, which is now growing. Like we enable kids, for example, in Malawi, like we are looking now at Malawi, Rwanda, and some other African countries we already worked in, now how to educate young people and even elderly. So we want to, I think about the multifamily, or multi-generation concept, where from young to old, everyone can participate in this drone space with Wingcopter and help building up an ecosystem in these countries where, there's no car manufacturer in Africa right now, apart from Volkswagen in Rwanda, which is very small and more like a showcase factory. But I would say we could bring drone technology into places, Latin America and Asia and in Africa, where you couldn't imagine this right now, but training the right people, getting a team together which is capable on participating in this $1 billion markets, which is power line inspection, pipeline inspection, railway, highway inspection, all long range applications where Wingcopter is perfect for, as well as for sure delivery of medical stuff, but also not just vaccine, blood, laboratory samples, but also parcels, which we now partnered up with UPS. As you might know, we have this big, interesting deal with UPS to develop now their new fleet for America and beyond. So we are really designing a new drone specifically for parcel delivery. And at some point, you can even use it probably to deliver food. And not just in developing countries, but also in all other countries in the world, because delivering blood is a problem everywhere. Delivering food is needed everywhere. So I think you can make people participate in this huge market, get job opportunities, and this is something we look for. So we really want to make a social change with our technology by educating people and also letting people work with our technology to enable totally new applications and therefore enable a better life for themselves, and maybe even paying for the education or the education of their children because they have some income.
I see. And this interview will set a new record for the fewest participation of me in the interview, which is totally fine. I love people who have a lot to say. Talking about a lot to say, we're getting towards the end of this interview with the notable interruption of both of your kids stepping in, which we'll have to cut out. Nonetheless, very entertaining, but, going a little bit back to our introduction, Frankfurt Forward. You are the startup of the month. Frankfurt Forward, you're based in Darmstadt, which is pretty close to Frankfurt in the Rhine-Main area. What does Frankfurt and the Rhine-Main area mean for you while you're still headquartered here?
I mean, first of all, we are really proud to be selected as a startup of the month. I think it's an honor. And I can say that this region is really, I just realized this in the last weeks and months that how lucky we are to be here. Before, in the last years, especially during the time of fundraising, I said to myself, oh, we should have been in Silicon Valley somewhere, or we should have been somewhere in China, or it's just maybe not the right place here to really raise funds, to really, be recognized as one of the leading technology manufacturers. I mean, we are still small, but we want to grow something really huge. And I was thinking we might be at the wrong place. However, these days, I realize how much supportive the local community is, how much people like Wingcopter and want it to succeed. So wherever we go, people are super happy to meet us and super supportive. Already now, we built out an image here in this region. So people, again, they really like us. And in addition, I see now also politicians to start really reaching out to us, offering help, asking for example, a plot they can give us to build a factory or to really expand the company. And also in terms of funding, now we get offers, which are super interesting. So I'm hoping that in the next couple of months, there might be some updates on this. But really, we have great talks to local people, politicians, but also other players in the space, like other corporates, like Merck, for example, which helped us a lot, a really big lot to succeed. And I'm just really proud to be here. I think my whole team is really happy. We also survived the Corona crisis in a quite good way, because on the one side, the need for autonomous technologies is growing. And I think everyone understands that technology with less human interaction is kind of needed for many different applications. So on the one side, we're lucky now with this crisis also to be here in this region and still be able to work, not shutting down everything, not suffering from that crisis. We are in home office, but that's the only measure we took. We are happy in this situation, but also overall, I would say I'm proud to be here in Hessen. And we love to build out this new technology in a region where it hasn't been done before. And I think we are leading also in terms of how we will manufacture it and all this and how we will scale it. And I think at some point, maybe Germany will be proud of what we built here, and then we can make also Germany, we can represent Germany in the world. And I think this is good. I think, Silicon Valley has already a lot of great things to show. I think for Hessen, we can improve. So I think we will be part on improving this.
Great last words. Thank you very much for the interview. It will surely set the record for one of the longest recordings we've done. It will surely set the record for the most words spoken within this time. But nonetheless, it was a great pleasure having you as a guest. Thank you for making the time on a Saturday for this recording. I hope to see you guys succeed, and I hope you'll come back maybe next year when there's more to tell. Thank you very much. It was just a pleasure having you as a guest, Tom.
Thank you very much. And then thanks for listening also to these lots of words. And I hope you just feel that this is passion and we love what we do. And sorry for being this excited. But yeah, happy to be here and hopefully we meet again here.
That's all, folks.
Bye.
Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.